very heartening to see Senator Blunt he's one of the few. I mean, I don't know what it is about St. John Danforth that makes him untouchable, but his petulant, disgusting op-ed that he wrote, once again, for out of the blue.
You're a small petty man.
Attacking President Trump and calling him hateful and demanding basically that Republicans disassociate themselves from the President of the United States, who, by the way, won Missouri by 19 percentage points. And, of course, John Danforth is one of the main supporters of Josh Hawley. That's not Josh Hawley's fault necessarily, but it also kind of has made a lot of people wondering why Josh Hawley hasn't said anything about Danforth's screed, which is awful by any stretch and basically unwarranted on a number of different levels, especially if Danforth supports Hawley. He shouldn't put Hawley in this position where now he kind of has to reconfirm his support of the president, which he did when the president was here last week. He sent a letter welcoming him, that kind of thing. But Ann Wagner said, frankly, if I were him, I would have flown in from my vacation just for a couple hours and flown back, or done what I would have been here if I were Josh Hawley. And so, and of course, I did say that Blunt was the only one. Ann Wagner was also another one who, I think that's pretty brave considering that Danforth pushes people around a lot and likes to do that, likes to kind of exercise his cred. And he does, obviously he can say whatever he wants to say. He's earned it. But the fact that he's doing this is putting Hawley in a very tough spot. And also, by the way, the other people who signed that letter have yet to disavow Senator Danforth. All they do is say, well, other conservatives do support him. But when are people going to have the guts actually come out and say, listen, old man, stop it. This is ridiculous. And in fact, Senator Blunt was interviewed, and he was on Chuck Todd's show, and was asked specifically about the Danforth op-ed, because obviously Danforth knows that the minute he says something or writes something, the anti-Trump media and the never-Trumpers and everybody else are going to pick up on it and just kind of feed off of this thing for a little while. And so Senator Blunt had this to say about it.
Senator Danforth's always been helpful to me. He's a friend of mine. This is not unusual for him to set a standard that is not necessarily the standard that gets things done. We have to work with the president. I think it's a mistake to get in a fight with the president. It's not a mistake to disagree when you disagree. It is a mistake to suggest that somehow this president, who was elected just as the Constitution prescribed and has the responsibility to lead the country, that somehow we need to not work with this president, I think is a bad road to go down.
Is the president divisive?
Good for. Well, I'm sorry. Was there more to that?
A little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think so. I was with the president in Springfield, Missouri, my hometown, Wednesday. He talked about the importance of better jobs and more take-home pay and how we could get there. And believe me, that's a message that resonates in the country.
So he's anyway. The fact of the matter is, Senator Blunt obviously threaded a needle there, and was able to say, oh, I'm friends with him, blah blah. But the fact of the matter is, this was unwarranted. And it's one thing to actually attack President Trump the way Danforth did. It's another thing then to tell Republicans not to work with him and to disassociate themselves from him. It's irresponsible, and it's also irresponsible, in my opinion, for people who are in the Missouri Republican realm not to come out and comment about this. But that's what happens. He's St. John Danforth, and people are afraid of him and shouldn't be. Dino, what's up, buddy?
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Jamie. You're awesome.
You are too, Dino.
Dude, this is just part of the swamp. And I was not a Trump supporter off the get-go, I have to admit, but I am on board. And it just goes to show you how entrenched the two parties actually are. There really isn't. He is so entrenched, and when we get a true outsider like Trump, and now I'm on board with Trump, this is what you're seeing.
Well, yeah, because what you're seeing individuals who are afraid that they're going to be made obsolete, or their obsolescence has been revealed by the presence of President Trump. And Danforth, as you point out, was in Washington, D.C. at a time when both Democrats and Republicans were ruining this country. And so for 30 years, these guys have been selling out the American worker, selling out the American taxpayer, doing nothing about tax reform, doing nothing to secure our borders, and in fact, encouraging more border infiltration. So these guys, and getting us into wars and things like that. And so these guys, obviously are in a situation where they know that they are part of the swamp, and they know that President Trump has shined the light of them. And so when you have if you ever put a light on the swamp, you'll see what it's made up of, and it's all the bullfrogs like Danforth, and they don't like that at all. Dino, thanks for calling the show. I mean, that's why we have a situation now where we're still in a haggle over tax reform, because what's happening is the reason why President Trump isn't probably going to get the 15% corporate tax rate, and that Ryan wants the 25%, because they want to keep all those loopholes and all these things in stock. Because what happens is the 15% demands a closure of all the loopholes. So because you can't give a corporate tax rate at 15% and then keep all the loopholes open, because then obviously many of them paying zero as it is in terms of using the loopholes. You have to mandate that if you're going to give them 15%, they have to pay it, to pay the 15%. Right now, with all the loopholes, sometimes you can get down to zero or whatever it happens to be. But see, Ryan and those guys don't want to close those loopholes, because they've been using that to keep their donors happy for the longest time. Democrats too. So they're not gonna allow this, and that's the swamp right there. And that's why we haven't had an adjustment or a change in the deal with tax reform for you or for corporations, because they don't want to let go of this stuff. They don't want to let go of these little gifts they're handing out to people who are funding their campaigns. It's exactly what Coolidge warned about in terms of the gigantic size of our government, or the ballooning of our government, and these guys want to just keep it fed.